Everybody, it's John Wolpert here with the Baseline Show. As always, Wednesday afternoons, noon U.S. Eastern Time on Wednesdays. And if I'm going to get this right, Samra Kishore, Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern, 6 p.m. India Standard Time. Is that right? I got it right.
Absolutely.
It's good to see everybody. We got Charles Taub, we got Keith Salzman, we got Yoav Bitton, we've got Mark Haddle as always, Dominic Steil, Nick Critico, Samra Kishore, Taylor Heath, Automora Nataranjan, and dude named Matt. Matt, we just got Matt. Are you Matt? Who are you?
This is Matt Hepler. Sorry, John.
Oh, Matt.
I've been on for a while.
Okay. It's all good. Yeah.
Welcome back,
Matt.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, we're live streaming today, not only on YouTube, but on Twitter, which is cool. So you can go to at Baseline Proto, and you can on Twitter, and you can get the show there now too. Thank you, Restream for all of your streaming needs. I think if I say that enough, they'll like pay us money for sponsoring. Kidding. Right on. It's good to see everybody. We have a special guest here. Well, I mean, Dominic's an old friend here of the Baseline family, but and part of the team. But we're going to be talking to you about some stuff next week. I am told, and of course, no promises until the day, but I'm told that the Base Ledger crew's got some stuff is signed up to come on. So I'm sure we'll have like thousands of people showing up for that. So if that I don't know that that's I have that hearsay that was that's next week's show, but I think that's right. If I'm wrong, mea culpa. But anyway, it's good to see everybody. Dominic, what have you got going on?
Yeah, so I appreciate you inviting me on the show. I know it's been a while since last time I was on. I think we did the Code Don't Lie, and we're kind of talking through the first iteration of baselining Salesforce and different classes we're using. But last couple of months been very busy. I'm working on Dapps still and building out not only the baseline integrations, we're also working on some things around stable coins. And then also, I'm also working on another company called Stateset, which is more of an operations platform for the direct-to-consumer market. So a little bit different, tail end of the market as opposed to like your Salesforce typical enterprise SMB type customer or SMB type customer. And that's where I'm spending a lot of my time on those two things at the moment.
Very cool. Here, hold on for 1 second. I gotta show everybody. 3, 2, 1. Code Don't Lie. Yeah, gotta love Code Don't Lie. The guys on Zoom didn't see that, but YouTube will enjoy it. Right on. So let's talk more about that. Sonal is out today, and please send out some love for Sonal. Had a bit of a car accident the other day, and but she's doing okay. Nothing.
Oh no.
No permanent injuries. Bit of a concussion, but she should be okay. And Sonal, sorry for outing you on the national television, but want everybody who loves your work to send good thoughts your way. So we'll be thinking of you on today's show. Dominic, but Sonal sent me a bunch of questions to ask you, and of course I'm not organized enough to have those questions in front of me, so just have at.
So
what's going on?
Like I said, I think in the baseline community, what I've been seeing is like one thing I really like recently that I've been looking more into is the Battleship, that demo. I thought that was pretty awesome. And looking at certain comments in ArcGIS and kind of seeing like, okay, what does that mean to other systems of record, right? If you do that with Postgres, could you do that same pattern with other kind of databases? And that was something I saw the last couple of weeks here. That was pretty cool. With Stateset specifically, there's, we're not really on a traditional ERP or larger enterprise system of record. We actually are just using our own Postgres database and a few other, kind of things in the stack. But looking at that example, I thought it was a really kind of approachable example for baselining and zero knowledge proofs. And so I was looking at that the last couple of weeks and seeing where that would make sense for some of our customers on Stateset. Also within like the Dapps suite product we built on Salesforce, like I think it's a good example of like how extensible the protocol is and the pattern is. And so I thought that was a really cool example that the team put together. So whoever worked on that, kudos, that was awesome. It was really awesome.
Yeah, we love I love that game. And in fact, there's two versions of it. Two different folks, groups of folks, both built a battleship game. One of them was at ETH Denver, and I don't know if they won, but they did very well in the ETH Denver hackathon.
Yeah.
And there's a video of them on stage with Vitalik Buterin, and Vitalik seemed like he was really interested in it. I like it because you could probably take the basic code and apply it to, like if I was in the military area, I would, you could probably take it and use it in like war game scenarios and stuff like that. You could say different countries could actually use that approach. You have to make it a lot better, but and more sophisticated.
It was it was good. It was good looking at that and kind of seeing like development of where it is. It's not as low level too. I think it was like very approachable in the CIRCOM circuits where it's not like, I'm not an expert Go developer coming from JavaScript. It was very easy to kind of read through CIRCOMs, read through Snark.js and really kind of reason about how things are working. They have a great tutorial on it. So that's something I thought was pretty cool. We, in this Dapps suite package, we have like a Solidity compiler. And I was thinking, it's kind of a stretch, like even having Solidity as a compiler inside of Salesforce, like how many people are actually writing Solidity in Salesforce? Everyone's typically using their own local setup or like Remix or something. But even to have like something like if you could do CIRCOM or any sort of like circuit libraries from, a platform like Salesforce or SAP or whatever it would be, I think that would be something down the road that developers, would have as the tooling gets better and better and less, and the APIs become a little bit higher up and approachable. So I thought that was very, very interesting. And it's an easy way also to explain it to people, right? Battleship, I think that's a really good example that I like when explaining like baselining or zero knowledge proofs. I also think another one that the ID, like, showing someone an ID to make sure you can get in the bar, but not giving away your address. I think it's another good example I like to give when talking about, these sort of zero knowledge proof and baselining examples are kind of quick and easy examples to give to people. But yeah, other than that, I've been very busy building on the Stateset platform. We're building out a number of modules. None of them, per se, like baselined yet. But I will say like very actively building with customers in the direct consumer market. And some of those processes I definitely think can be extended to be baselined. Some of these like purchase order, procurement, procure to pay use cases, quote to cash use cases that like Charles and I used to work on back in the day at Aptus. I think there's a lot of opportunity there to look at these procure to pay and quote to cash type processes and see how they can be baselined or have at least some attribute of them proved on chain. Right. So that's
yeah. So you've been doing a lot. You were really one of the earliest people in the baseline community to be working on marketplace stuff like like the Salesforce marketplace.
Yep.
The App Store. And it's funny. I've been thinking about you a lot lately because we've been talking to a bunch of analysts, firms, like IDC and others, about regardless of how you solve it, whether you solve it with zero knowledge technology or blockchain or what we had on the last week with Richard Kendall Brown and their approach with Conclave. It doesn't matter. The point is that we're coordinating more and more every day. And when they were and we need better ways of coordinating without giving up all of our data to each other as the way to do it. And people get this. And interestingly, on the IDC call, and they were asking, where do you see this? And it strikes me that one place that's emblematic of that whole problem is web services, right? Mm-hmm. The minute you have multiple web services, especially across multiple platforms. So if it's just in Salesforce, okay, you could probably get Salesforce to be the ordering service, right? So you wouldn't need a blockchain then. But technically, right, you could use the baseline approach, and you wouldn't need to do anything about having a CCSM or a common frame of reference like Base Ledger or the mainnet or whatever. You let the service provider that's running the marketplace do that. You could, but when you want it to be across Salesforce App Store and across SAP and Ariba and other things, that's when it gets really interesting. And web services need to coordinate, right? I mean, I'm working on a project right now. We've got almost 20 different web services, and some of those don't need orchestration. I mean, using Carta and things like that, that's not necessary, but a lot of them do. They need orchestration, and they're not all in, say, AWS or Azure. They're where you could use Kafka and orchestrate them in there. And there's a lot of them that have, where you're giving up a lot of data, and it's creeping me out. And it really creeps me out that where there's a potential for, a web service A to be passing data to web service B in order to coordinate or to do an automation. So multi-party automation, and I'm almost starting to think that's the right way to put it. We've said multi-party workflows, multi-party coordination, multi-party what have you, but really integrations. But I think multi-party automation is maybe a good way of putting it. And I've noticed my old boss Jerry Cuomo has been, he's like the head of automation or something at IBM right now. So that automation is becoming important. How does this? Sorry for the long question. How is this playing out for you, and what do you think about the whole web services biz?
Yeah, I mean, so on the multi-party automation side, I think that was back, I think it was 2016. That was kind of the problem that I was hearing from companies when still at the Salesforce ISV partner, and they were saying, we have the same app provider in this Salesforce instance, and we have the same app provider in this Salesforce instance, but they don't talk, and there's no way to automate those different workflows. So typically what you're doing is you're checking in some sort of document, which is the output of system A, and then reconciling that document when you check it into system B. Completely same app provider, completely same infrastructure. The problem with that, though, is you still have all of this custom kind of logic on each side, and you don't actually have kind of that common frame of reference. There's no neutral frame of reference you can reference. So I think the multi-party automation workflow, whether they're on both Salesforce orgs, but now the example that you're giving is like if they're on SAP, or our instance for Stateset, it's just a Postgres database. It's a full stack, but Postgres is the system of record. What is like a very easy kind of turnkey way to do these sort of multi-party workflows, whether one's in Salesforce and one's on their own kind of system, or they're in another kind of comparable enterprise-like system. And so I think the other thing I saw the other day from you, that tweet there you put out about the 6 steps for baselining, I thought that was also very, very, just a very good approachable way to, without getting too low level in the zero knowledge proofs and getting into like all of the weeds of like, how does this even work? It was a very, I think, very succinct way to like actually describe like the different patterns, the steps that make a compliant solution. So if anyone hasn't seen that, I definitely recommend seeing that thread by John, because it does kind of help you reason about like how do we build this sort of like compliant solution. And so I think that's where people should start if they want to start looking at multi-party automation. Look at that thread; it's a good thread.
Well, I think Dom, you bring up an interesting point from our past, right? I mean, commercial processes, whether you're buying something or selling something, it's a community event, right? Like, so it is multi-party by default. And there's always an if-then statement around what happens next when it comes to commercial compliance, revenue lifecycle management, supporting customer success. I mean, every tech provider out there has been living this for quite some time with these multi-tiered supply chains, right? They've got catalogs, they've got price lists, they've got commercial obligations that need to be managed between all the resellers, distributors, or implementation partners around a common objective, which is customer happiness, right? and then the commercial elements that coincide to orchestrating all that army of resources. And Dom, we face this. Like, even if all of those parties were using a platform like Salesforce, given the nuances of everybody's business, it was impossible to get that to be coordinated effectively to reuse that logic. It's even more compounded because we all know that all these parties are not using the exact same application, right? And they shouldn't have to. And I think that's really where the power of baseline is. And the power of what John's onto with the messaging, which is like, look, we have to simplify this and distill it at a business level, so people realize that there's already a need and they're already trying to do it, just with a really kludgy architecture to try and synchronize this communal effort.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one effort that you've seen in the past is communities, but even that, you're still kind of having to log in and trust, that the data hasn't been, somewhat changed. That was always the objection I would get. Like, why don't you just, set up a community, they can log in, it still resides in someone's system. You don't have that neutrality. And it's hard to go back and prove.
OAuth was, is I think kind of a granddaddy of what we're talking about, right? What was the problem with OAuth? What was the problem that OAuth was trying to solve, which was oh my gosh, either you have to have login password for every single thing and it drives you crazy, or you're giving all of your, it may be hashed, but still all your data, all your password logins to, say, Facebook or Google or what have you, right? OAuth was a way, maybe not a lot of people, who use it realize this, but it behind the scenes, it was a way of taking that risk out, right? So that, yes, you're using your Google login, but you're not handing Google, the ability to go and behave as, or log into that other service as you, for example.
Yeah. But there still was the underlying problem, John, right? So you had a more simple solution for logging into another portal, but that portal that is provided by somebody else that you're working with is not the primary interface that you're relying on to do your business tasks, right? The last thing we need are more portals and more repositories that we need to try and synchronize with what we're actually using day in and day out.
And it creates another cache of data that may not be in sync, right?
Correct.
So
no, my new slogan is portal all the things. I'm all into portals, man. I need more. I've got a fever.
More portals.
And the only thing, I've got a fever for portals.
I went to the Grand
Wailea.
Wailea.
That's going to be a meme. That's going to be a meme, John. I'm going to put that out there.
I enjoyed a week at the Grand Wailea at Oracle Club based on selling portals back in 2000, maybe somewhere in that time frame.
Years from now, when everybody's baselining, I'm going to say, yeah, this IT system's got, it's good, but I got a fever for more baseline.
Cowbell.
More baseline. Sorry.
More baseline.
The problem is that people need to see to believe.
Yeah.
And then therefore, and since you have a problem, like, because the data is sitting everywhere, it's like they have to different views into, have to log in because it's all, it's a human problem. It's not a technology problem, right? It is, people don't trust cryptography because they don't understand it, even though they're using it all the time unknowingly. But if you're saying, oh, you need to trust this and you can't see it, they will not go there ever. Right. So it's you're on mute, John, if you're speaking.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
So it's like, so this is really the challenge, right? It's not the technology. You can make technology sing, right? That's not, it's the DPU, right, that you need to cater to. And that is just because they need to touch it, they need to hold it, they need to,
except that in this case, and this is why this is sort of the, we call this the new boring, boring is beautiful, we're talking about, IT exec or IT man, no, not IT execs, CISOs and architects who can, you can make a good case and say, look, this is safe and here's why, and they understand it.
Right, but the AP or the AR or the procurement manager, right, at their desk,
No, they're
right?
just doing their job. They don't even know.
I know, but they're the ones that are driving the CISOs and everything insane because if it's not working in their frame of reference with how they want to do it, they will create workarounds that will give you bloody nightmares, and they're creating the data silos, and they're creating all of this within the organization, not just between organizations, within the organizations. Do you know what the biggest challenge is or was? Migrating from Lotus Notes to Outlook.
Oh, I know exactly, because I was at IBM and we couldn't.
You were at
get the thing
IBM,
out
so
of
what
there.
was the biggest one?
It was not the email. It was
No.
that managers thinking that they could write code were doing low code in those. That's what Lotus Notes was. It was this low code system for doing all of these little
Databases.
terrible IT projects without proper developers and architects. And so
shadow
the
IT
company was being run. Yeah, it was all shadow IT.
Shadow IT, and that's a big problem.
We built all of these different little data systems that wound up running entire departments, and you had to rip them all out over time, and it took forever.
And your archiving system, being email with all the spreadsheets that are basically archived in email, and that's how people work.
Lotus Notes for its day was pretty awesome. You could.
It was.
You know what I loved about it? You could create a task and convert it to an email and convert it to another thing, because everything was a document. And you ever try to take a Google task and turn it into a calendar entry? You can't do it. It drives me crazy.
Anyway. People learn from Lotus Notes because the IT people said, no, we can't give power to these people because they will abuse it in any possible way. So we're restricting
always think of
it.
that when people talk about low code. I'm like, I'm okay with pro code, right? Make it easy for people that know what they're doing to do their thing easier and faster. I'm cool with that. But low code, no code, I'm like, I don't know, because I experienced the Lotus Notes thing.
Well, history could be repeating itself all over again with these solutions. I mean, the amount of chief revenue officers and sales operations teams that are going rogue and acquiring, cloud-based tools without the support of IT has been running rampant for a decade now. And now all of a sudden IT is being brought in to try and bring order to the chaos.
Oracle actually has a wonderful declarative programming environment right in their database called Application Express. And it's been there for years, but they've only over the last probably 5 years started marketing it. And one of the reasons that they like it so much is because business users can build their own apps on the Oracle database, which makes, as we just talked about, shadow IT makes it hard for IT to maintain it and control it. More importantly, it makes it harder for them to remove the Oracle database from their infrastructure. So it's part of their kind of lock you in strategy. All kinds of examples of that. Sorry, I digressed.
No, that was wonderful.
Those are very important points because those are adoption hurdles. Those are real adoption hurdles that need to be addressed, right? The human interface, the human need needs to be addressed. Otherwise, baselining is not
bingo.
No, I think it's the same. Yeah, what is the biggest problem with doing with people that are selling security systems into companies? Look, I remember when the whole food safety thing was up. Right, it was like, oh, really? We're going to create a giant honeypot of everybody's data? That sounds terrible idea. But the CEO wanted it because they wanted a button that they could, quote unquote, click a button in 2 seconds, find out where all the contaminated produce was. And so the business requirement upstaged the security concerns, and that's always, kind of what happens. So, one of the things that practitioners of baselining or any of these multi-party automation techniques require is the ability, as you say, Andreas, to say, we're not only making new capability possible, and we're not only safe but possible and more seamless, right? Or more
really
yes, you can get your button. Yeah, you can get your button and find out where the bad produce is, and at the same time, we're not going to jeopardize the security of our systems.
Well, I think what a lot of the business domain has been trying to create is they want to be able to have that process environment to where they have visibility and control end to end. I've seen this quite a bit within finance, accounting, and procurement, like what Don was talking about earlier, to where you've got kind of the three phases: the source to pay. This is where we collate all of the invoices from so many suppliers, and when you've got these large enterprises, they can have over 1 million of them, and just trying to keep track of everything and try and prevent double payment, fraud, anything that might be out of sync. They'll go ahead and do that, and commonly they will outsource that. But then they will then take every back for the next stage, which is order to cash, where they will then assign the payment or the purchase orders or the payment execution to that, and that in-house, because they want to be able to have control over the purse. And then they will then hand it back to the outsourced, and it may be a separate person for the record to report. And so right now you have a lot of the business domain has been just really wanting to have that end-to-end process environment. And blockchain, tried to take a tackle at it and stuff. And it was, I think in theory, it was certainly possible, but in practice, it was something completely different. Blockchain, I think, when you're starting to put together the architecture and the plumbing, made it really difficult. And that's where Baseline really can offer a lot of value there, is because you're going to use your existing systems. So, but this will then give you, the path to that end-to-end process environment that you've been looking for.
One thing to add on that I think between procure to pay and between quote to cash, kind of going back to the system 1, system 2, you could have a scenario where you have like the procurement in one organization and the quote to cash side, buy side and sell side, and those should both be always in sync, even if it is distrusting companies or different systems of record. Those processes are they're like asymmetric like type of flow, parts of the same flow. So one side seeing the side, one side seeing the other side. I mean, it seems like that would make sense if those were both always looking at the same state, or we're able.
They actually must be different. Sarbanes-Oxley in the US, they must be different. So it's like you're creating different departments. You're creating multi-party orchestration even within a company for very good reasons.
Yeah. I wanted to also, John, I did want to go back to your point about pro code. I mean, this is something I've also been kind of exploring more as a tool I think someone should use within the baseline pattern, which I think would be really cool, is the if you're familiar with temporal. I don't know, it's a new framework that's kind of being, I've been seeing come up a little bit, but it's kind of a way to schedule different workflows. And we're looking at that as another way to kind of do, it's a workflow tool, but it's not no code. It's a basic, you're getting in the deep and you're using, but that plus, one of these kind of either circuit libraries like NARC, they have a Go library, so like NARC, or if you're using Snark.js, I think that's something else that we're looking at more to do these kind of like step-by-step workflows. It's not a BPM type tool, it's not declarative, but it is really something that I've also found pretty interesting on the Proco side. Just want to bring that up as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, somebody was tried to link the Salesforce article, but didn't. I wonder, or is that in chat that I missed? Why don't we get that up? And Dom, where can we find your stuff now? So we make sure, I don't want to forget to plug that.
So we are on the Salesforce App Exchange, and we have a managed package specifically for Dapps Suite for Ethereum. The other component that we've been looking at is different layer 2s. Those haven't been pushed to the managed package today, but we are looking at different layer 2s, Optimism, Polygon. We've looked at other chains, but for the most part, the managed package is on the App Exchange today. If you go to salesforce.appexchange.com, you'll really see the Dapps Suite managed package.
DAPPSUITE for
yes.
folks tuning in. And that's very cool. So, yeah. So I was, what the interesting question is where would you do an orchestration between, like take that piece and some other piece. Let's build an app, or let's build a multi-party, web service app, what would we do?
Yeah, I think one of the things I like about was specifically with Salesforce is they do have a lot of kind of out of the box declarative tools. So I would say you start with like something like Process Builder or Flow. I think that's a great place to start. You have the ability to kind of declaratively say like, I want this object and the JSON from this object to be sent to and to create a proof off of that. So that you give the end user, the ability to kind of create these different workflows they don't have to go into Apex code to do it. So there's kind of going back a little bit on the no code side, but
so that's an interesting. I mean, say we had the Salesforce development team right here. Hi, Salesforce development team. They're clearly they're watching. They watch every week, of course. So I think they make a party out of it, like they do lunch while they watch the show. I mean, that's what everybody does, right? So if they were right here, we could say, hey, that would be a good place to insert a baseline capability, wouldn't it? I mean, the minute you said JSON, I'm saying, where do we not have to send it? When could we give you the option not to have to send the actual packet, right, of information? I mean, I think that's a great, nice, succinct place to say, let's look at that, right?
Yeah, I'd say even extending the Apex, the Apex classes to include the required cryptographic libraries that are needed to either do circuits. I don't know if those would actually be done on Salesforce, but potentially in the future that would be something. I would say that's, again, I would say I'm not that low level in the cryptographic libraries that Salesforce currently has today, but I think extending that, as if I was working at Salesforce and I was on that team, I'd say extending it to support the need to write circuits on Salesforce and Apex would be pretty cool.
Yeah, in fact, I think so. We've got some folks on call that are looking at things like how do you make it really easy to do NARC and build circuits. Treat them like more like Lambda functions, and right, that sort of thing would be be a really nice thing to add. You're right. In these platforms, it always takes a while for those things to start to happen, but I think that would be. Speaking of which, that reminds me, for anybody that doesn't know, if you go to, I think it's up, baseline-protocol.org, you will see now a get baselined. Mark, is that up?
Yes.
It is, right? So get baselined is sort of the now growing list of sponsors. You have to be a sponsor to be on the list. And as a standards body, we don't make any claims about, anything, and we don't get in the middle of it. But we are listing all the companies that so if you're watching the show or if you're getting interested in baselining and you need help, you need these kinds of services or those kinds of services, you need a CCSM, you need a full stack environment. So something like BaseLedger, something like Provide, something like NARC. Then you can find the providers who are sponsors right there on the website. So go to baseline-protocol.org. Actually, somebody pointed out you don't actually have to put the dash in. I think it's you'll get there even with just baseline-protocol.org, and you can find the companies that are available. And there are more sponsors that are kind of preparing their list. Accenture is a sponsor, Ernst & Young is a sponsor. They definitely know their zero knowledge work. We've been working with Envision, which is. They've got some really good circuit folks there. Check those guys out. Envision Blockchain. Andreas, we like those guys, right? I've been pretty impressed.
They're
very good.
They're very good. Yeah, I'm working with them together right now to do ZK rollups.
You got to have
ZK
just one ZK to the N. Is that
ZK to the N, which actually brings me to a point here and coming back to it's like procure to pay, order to cash, that kind of stuff, cutting across multiple departments. So the real big problem is people need to see it, right? And if they don't see it, you need to have you have to have a demonstrable way that what you did is right. But you're saying that, the other guy did it right too, right? So it's not that, the contracting guy did it right. Really? No. I actually need to see the contract before I approve this rec, right? So someone attaches a PDF to the rec. So because your VP needs to approve the rec before it becomes a PO. I'd say that kind of stuff. So what do you do, right? It is the
that's where like Anant's not sure I'm on if he's on it. Oh, he is on. I didn't see it there. Anant's work in building and sort of like construction project management and stuff like that. What I think folks like Anant need is to be able to go to a website and put, and in the language of what they're doing in their industry, be able to say, okay, I need these kinds of, this is my workflow. I need to put it together. I know Provide's got a workflow builder, so there's that. But I think even easier, right? You just need to be able to, bing, 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 go to a website, and then now you've got.
It gets actually worse. It's like you sometimes can't even pass the proof along.
Right.
So what do you do? Right? It's like, especially if that crosses, for example, organizational boundaries, right? It's like, or you can't, let's say the proof was created in the UAE pertaining to members of the citizens of the UAE. That proof cannot leave a UAE data center by law. What do you do?
What do you think the legal will be on that, Andreas? There's some ambiguity about, even in GDPR, about, say, hashing and whether or not a hash constitutes is covered under that, right? And it sounds like, and I'm not going to provide legal advice, but I've heard from a couple of folks who are lawyers that that it's, with sufficient indirection, a hash is okay. What's your understanding?
Guidance from the European Commission is salted hashes. So to do that, but it's like a salted hash doesn't really help you at all. Okay, because it's because you can't. It's like if you have a hash chain, right? It's like there are a couple of things that did that. That's great, but you can only prove the hash chain if you actually have the leaves, because you can recompute the Merkle proof, right? So, but if you cannot have access to those leaves by law, what do you do? The only way to solve that is through recursive proofs. The only way, right? You prove in a circuit that the previous proof that is related to that is true, and therefore you then prove everything in one proof. It's the only that's the only way to do it to be legally compliant, because you're generating the proof. Not, it's then no longer about, it was no longer than generated, right? So you're creating degrees of separation, and then it is no longer directly related to input data from a UAE citizen or UAE entity. And that is where the magic comes in. So you need recursive proofs. And if you're doing recursive proofs and you're doing it, imagine GM or General Electric does with their supply chains, does recursive proofs, how many they have to generate and manage. So this is a classic case for, you need to outsource this, and you need a SaaS solution that can manage tremendous amounts of data, because that's what you're going to have with recursive proofs that you need to carry along the proof chain. That's a great business opportunity.
Speaking of business opportunities, let's talk about blips and grants. And I see on YouTube. Yov, you were called out. By the way, shout out to Rye Guy for says that he said earlier that he has a lunch party with our show every day. So that was funny. Thanks, Rye Guy. And also about the DoD restriction comment. Thanks for that. But yeah, Yoav, what's your sense of what kind of blips are coming up?
Yeah,
Blips,
so
by the way, for people that don't know, baseline improvement proposals. That's how we define new work and improvements, and then get those some of them paid for with grant money.
so maybe I can take this opportunity to plug Dev Connect a little bit. We'll be having a 6 weeks long virtual blip bounty event, which will start here in about a week. And the tie-in there is during this event, at the very start of the event, we're going to drop a whole bunch of blips. I'm hoping for a list around 30 or so long. And each of these blips will have grants, like we mentioned, and will allow anyone in the community or looking to join the community to take a blip, pick it up, and form a team or work on it individually and just get into it. So yeah, the blips, to answer your question, are they vary from very simple kind of create a flow to more fully encompassing baseline creations. So yeah, there's a whole lot of there's a whole range on that spectrum of different kind of blips that we're excited to drop. And yeah, good things are coming for sure.
Right on. Scarne Z on I think YouTube, or maybe it was Twitter. Can't tell on the interface, but it's one of those. Yeah, I think no, it was YouTube. Asks, is there a career path to follow to join in on the baseline thing? And I think that the first answer I would give, of course, is get involved. Go to baseline-protocol.org. Get involved with the core dev meetings. You can sit in on those without being an actual maintainer. Maintainers have to show up, or they lose their ability to be a maintainer. But anybody can join the team meetings and get involved. The more you get involved, the more you become a core dev. So that's a really good way of doing it. You can get mentorship from that. There's a lot of really smart folks earlier in their career, later in their career. And there is no, in my view, there's no correlation between earlier or later. The skill level is some people are, you find great people at all levels of career development. So yeah, get in and talk to people and just get involved. So that's one thing. And honestly, that's a really big one because, not to TMI, but, I hired several people on this call and I'm very happy about it. They showed up, they were doing stuff. It's a pretty easy decision to hire somebody when you see them doing stuff, without you hiring them already. That's a pretty good strategy, right? Show up to so there is is there a hackathon at ETH Amster based, or is that what we're calling it? Amster?
Amster based.
And that's Dev Connect. We should probably put a card up for that. So Dev Connect, why don't you, Keith, Yoav, why don't you tell folks about what's happening in Amsterdam in April?
Yeah, so April 20th is our in-person Dev Connect event, which will happen in Amsterdam. And we have a website for that with a whole bunch of information that I can link in the chat here in a moment. So that event is going to be sort of your typical ETH style event. We'll have a bunch of speakers. We'll do some kind of dev related stuff. We'll do some blip bounty stuff where we can have teams kind of meet in person, and we'll offer technical support or offer ideas, things like that. And then 3 weeks before that April 20 and 3 weeks after that April 20 is when the entirety of the blip bounty event will take place, and that'll be virtual for anyone who can't attend in Amsterdam in person.
That's great. So say again, where can I'm going to type it in again. Where can
yes, so it's baseline-protocol.org/Amster-based. If I'm allowed to send links.
Baseline protocol /Amster-based.
Yep.
You didn't want to go for Amster base, huh? You had to go for full-on base.
You got to get baselined. Get based.
Amster based. Like it.
Are you based?
I still like base dam.
Yeah, base dam was our most popular, but it probably wasn't for the best audience.
Right on. Yeah, I think I got that spelled right. So yeah, thanks for that, Yov. And everybody join in the fun. And yeah, submit some blips. There's money to be had. It's funny how, in my experience so far, even last year, it took people a little while to kind of get around the idea that they could get money, and then suddenly, like, there was a ton of grant requests that we had to process all at once. So yeah, get in early, man. There's money to be made, and more to be had. So another quick announcement is that now, if you go to you can donate to our grant fund, and you can do it in crypto. Brand new feature. Awesome. So now you can go. I'll try to pull that up, the URL. Actually, somebody talk amongst yourselves, and I'll go look for that link so we can pull it up. But yeah, you can donate to the grant program with crypto. Sponsors are typically who provide grant money. Ethereum Foundation, Consensus. But yeah, we're working on a policy right now, pretty close to done. A general agreement with all the leadership about the percentages, but basically, if you're not I think it's going in the right direction, so that no promises, but because somebody might throw a foul here, but the idea is that if you're not a sponsor, you can still donate, but part of that will be allocated to the sponsorship fund and running of the organization, Oasis and the EEA community projects. So that's how we got it. We said, okay, well, anybody should be able to, there's completely open and available to donate. I think I donate $5 a month to it. When we set it up, I'm like, I'll do 5 months. So every month I see $5 come out of my bank account. And that goes into the grant fund. So yeah, that's what's happening there. Dominic, I want to come back to you. What's next?
What's next?
And, yeah, I mean,
what's on the docket for this year?
Yeah, what are you guys going to be baselining next?
I would say I like purchase order receivables financing. I think asset-based NFTs would be really cool. Maybe we do some collab with Tree Trunk. That would be pretty cool. Asset-based NFTs, receivables financing, and I think purchase order financing, or in general, the sector I'm going after with Stateset, the direct-to-consumer market. There's I think a big opportunity there. So those are some of the things I'm pretty excited about baselining.
I know those Tree Trunk guys. What do you want to do with them? What's the idea?
I think I remember we kind of brief conversation about it. I was in the room with you guys, but I still need to do the exact deep dive. But maybe doing some sort of like asset-based NFT and being able to prove that it wasn't then shipped off to another lender. Maybe after that is the original PO or the original invoice, something along those lines.
Interesting. You should. There's this NLab guys that you might want to talk to as well.
I think so.
End labs, where all labs go to end. No, that's not.
Early, new, different.
What's the slogan?
Early, new, different.
I like that. Yeah, so that's something we're definitely looking at. We've been working on really just improving product and talking with customers. That's kind of my day to day. I've been building a lot, so I've been much on the involved on the Slack and everything in the shows, but yeah, I've been building a lot and really working on our product. So the day to day is and the rest of the year. But yeah, I'm excited about that use case for sure.
Thank you for that. Yeah, Nick, you got any updates from the NLabs world? any baseline things that are going on?
We have a number of projects that are considering baseline. Big borrowers, big asset originators that are looking to create effectively warehouse lines of credit or other kind of syndicated structured credit options with DeFi, where they need to share information about the assets, the quality of the assets, how they're rated, but do it in a protected, private way so that none of the PII leaks. The borrowers are getting the information they need in order to invest in these credit pools the way that they need to, and that the whole thing is auditable. So we're working on a number of zero knowledge circuits, and heavy on the baseline.
Right on.
And the team is growing. So, we're always looking for more people. We are.
Yeah, Scarnezy, yes. There's another answer. Everybody go. Nick's home phone is.
You can find me on Baseline Slack or at nick@endlabs.io, end-labs.io, just to make it even more difficult to find.
Right on. Yeah. So if you have no skills and no talent, then definitely call Nick. And,
Thanks, John.
No. If you, quite the opposite, of course. It's an incredible team. By the way, would be great to see Eric again. I know, before Eric joined NLabs, Eric Breivik is one of the great systems IT security folks out there. And I mean, this is all about that. So he was one of the early members and leaders in the baseline team. I know he's been pretty busy, but please say hi. Give him our love.
John Taffer of the startup world.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, we're getting pretty close to the end of the hour. We have burned. What is it? Was it Click and Clack, the Tappet brothers that used to do? Yeah. You've wasted another hour on listening to us talk, but
such a great show.
It was a great show. For folks who don't know, it was an NPR show called
Car
Talk.
Talk.
Used to love it. So.
No longer. They were brothers, right?
Those passed on to the
one of them has passed.
One of them passed. Right.
But they were immortalized in the Disney Pixar film Cars.
In Cars, yeah, exactly.
Because they were so iconic.
Yeah, that's very true.
So next week sounds like a big, a big week. I know a lot of folks out in the community have been waiting for the base ledger mainnet stuff. I think that's public now. I saw, but we're hoping to see them on the show next week to tell us all the details about that. And I know I for one I'm looking for, that fancy Kafka. I want to be able to drop proofs on something and tell somebody where to find it and let them. Coordinate in that way. So that'll be very cool. Anything else? All right.
Thank you for having me on.
Then. Dom, it's great to see you, and we'll see everybody next week. Sonal, feel better. We'll see you next week. And
get well soon, Sonal.
And Mark, by the way, Mark also was in that car.
Yeah.
And Mark.
Yeah, no, they're both okay.
Thank God.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Thank the maker, as C3PO would say.
Thank the makers. It's like thank God that there was not a bigger tree.
It wasn't far from where I got in my big accident. In
George of the jungle.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Okay, we're gonna give everybody a minute back of their time.
All right.
See you later. Keep on baseline.
See you later.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. Peace.
Good night.